of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Council members Baker. Here. Galloway.
Here.
Lennon.
Here.
Piana. Here. And Mayor Covey.
Here as well. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
We have approval of the agenda, Your Honor, and if I may remind you, we wanted to add a resolution to the end of the regular agenda.
Yes, ma'am. We have a resolution that Council put together. If we could put that on regular agenda item D as in dog, dealing with the budget. Any other changes or requests for the budget or for the agenda? If not, a motion to approve as amended.
So moved, Your Honor.
Support.
Motion made, Lennon. Baker seconds. Adopt the agenda as said.
I'm sorry. Council members Baker. Yes. Galloway.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
Mayor Covey.
Yes as well. Unanimous vote. Next item, Madam Clerk.
We have a presentation of the Fire Service Awards.
Very good. Thank you. Who is presenting tonight? The Fire Service Awards? Chief? Thank you, Chief.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight just for our awards. It was very nice of you. Thank you. We've been toying with starting an awards program in the fire department for some time, and about a year ago at the urging of the council, we finally got it off the ground. It was a little too late last year to get out the awards at council meetings, but this year we're going to do them at the meeting. First, we're going to start off with a citizen award, and one of my sergeants, Sergeant Ron Mikowski, is going to present an award to one of our citizens.
Morning, Council, Mayor, Seaman. There he is. Hello, I'm Ron Mikowski. Back on November 5th, we received a call for an apartment fire at 1225 Orchard. The call originated from apartment number 308. She reported to us that she smelled smoke. When we got there, she met us in the hallway, said there was pretty good smoke in her apartment, but it wasn't her apartment. So after a little bit of investigating, we determined it was the apartment below her. On that day, we got there to that door, we had smoke coming out of the doors. The keys from the apartment complex did not work. We forced the door, kicked the door in using sledgehammer. Entered the apartment, and we found the occupant in bed. Careless cook was the origination of the smoke. At that time, we woke her up and escorted her out. So today we'd like to give the caller of that call, Miss Shirley Sines, if you could please come up. Ms. Sines, with the appreciation of the Ferndale Fire Department on behalf of myself and Chief Smith and all the other members, we would like to thank you for your quick response and alert for saving your fellow apartment neighbor.
Thank you.
The first award we're going to give tonight, and I think it would be appropriate if you want to hold your applause till the end, that would be fine, is what we call our Award of Excellence. This award is to recognize the efforts of an individual firefighter who has exhibited excellent performance in fulfilling their assigned or self-initiated duties. We have 3 of those tonight for this past year. The first one goes to firefighter Pat Sheehan. When we purchased a new truck last year, when you buy a new truck, the compartments are empty. There's no brackets, no holders. Pat adopted that truck almost immediately and went to work setting it up so that we could put it in service. It takes a lot of work mounting equipment and getting it ready to go. He adopted it as his own. At the same time, we took another truck and put it in reserve status, and some of the equipment on that truck had to be removed and put on the new truck. And then that had to be sort of reconfigured, and Pat did that job as well, did an excellent job. We also have a a water tank filling system that's in the station so that we can fill the water tanks rapidly when we come back from a run. Pat put that system in about 1.5 years ago, and we had to revamp it completely after they removed the asbestos ceiling, and then he had to reconfigure it again a little bit to accommodate the new truck. So Pat's done an outstanding job and really put his whole heart and soul into it. The next one goes to Sergeant Ron Mikowski, who you just met. Ron is in charge of our technical rescue team, and Ron has worked tirelessly this past year, in fact longer than that, outfitting the team, getting the team training, and adopting rules and regulations for the team. So he's pretty much devoted all of his extra time to working with that team. And the third award goes to Sergeant John Toit. The county purchased got a grant to initiate a new 800 megahertz radio system countywide, and I needed to have a communications officer that would sort of jump in there with both feet, and that's exactly what John did. He learned how the system worked. In fact, he was so proficient at it that he got himself appointed to the county's oversight committee for the radio system. He's also a county-approved trainer now on the radio system. He trained the entire department on the radio system, so he spent an enormous amount of time and done an excellent job with that. So I'd ask those three to come in here if they're here. I know Ron is. Pat's here. The next category is life-saving in a fire situation. This award is given to a firefighter who is directly responsible for saving a human life by their actions in a fire, extrication, or rescue situation. We're giving out 3 of those tonight for one fire. Back on Halloween night, October 31st, we responded to an apartment fire at 1400 West 9 Mile. The guys gained entrance to the building. Sergeant Ken Kroner, who was in charge, directed his hose team, which was firefighter Kevin Northup and firefighter Rick Kelly. They took the hose line in, and the apartment was fully charged with smoke, so they went down onto their hands and knees. They immediately went to the left because they had a sense that that was where the fire was. They came to the kitchen and began extinguishing the fire. It was a kitchen fire. At that time, Sergeant Kroner, who does incident command, remained at the door to direct the crews and the other crews that were coming from the other station. At that point, as soon as they hit the fire, the smoke started to lift a little bit, and Sergeant Kroner noticed what he thought was a person in the corner of the living room. He immediately redirected the hose team. They abandoned the hose line and went over into the corner of the living room and found the apartment occupant, who was passed out on the floor. We believe that he had been in bed at the time of the fire. He probably put a pan on the stove and laid down and went to sleep. At some point, he woke up and tried to exit the apartment, but was unable to do so, and he collapsed in the living room. In the process, he was badly burned, and he took in a lot of superheated gases. But they removed him immediately from the apartment, took him outside where the other crew from Station 2 began resuscitation efforts. The gentleman is still in the hospital, but he is alive today. So with that, I'd like to bring in Sergeant Ken Kroner, firefighter Kevin Northup, and firefighter Rick Kelly. Finally, it was never the intent of this program to go back and try to make up for things that were done in the past. But I had to make one exception. I felt very strongly about this next award. This is our Medal of Valor Award, the highest award that we give. This award is given to a firefighter who is directly responsible for saving a human life, or there is every reason to believe that the victim could be saved by such action, even though they expired during or before such action was committed. The difference between this and the previous award is, in this category, there is a disregard for one's own safety in saving or trying to save a life. This incident goes back almost 10 years. In fact, it'll be 10 years this April. And actually, the fire didn't even occur in Ferndale. It occurred in Royal Oak Township. And this is before we had a service contract with the township. On the night of April 6th, 2000, The Oakland County Sheriff's Department called us and said that their fire department over there badly needed some help, that there were people trapped in a house fire. I happened to be on duty that night, so I have firsthand knowledge of this fire. We responded with a 4-man crew, myself, my engineer, and 2 firefighters. We pulled up on the scene, and this house was on Mitchelldale. Perhaps you remember it. It was an arson fire, and 5 children died in the fire. We got there. The house was fully involved. Fire was showing from almost every window on both floors, 2-story house. The only part of the house that was not involved in fire was the back bedroom and part of the kitchen at the back. We took a hose line immediately to the back of that house, where we found one and only one Royal Oak Township firefighter who had an air pack on who was trying to make a rescue. In fact, when we got to the back of the house, he was just coming out with one of the victims. Unfortunately, the child was dead. My guys immediately took charge hose line. The Royal Oak Township firefighter said there were more kids in there trapped, and he was going back in. I directed those 2 firefighters to take the hose line in and help him search, which they did immediately. They put on their air packs and went inside. Within a matter of about 2 minutes, my 2 firefighters brought out 2 more of the children. Unfortunately, they were both dead as well. At this point, the fire was just about to overtake the whole house. They insisted on going back in one more time because they knew there were still 2 children that were missing. I was apprehensive, but I told them, take the hose line back in with you, and I'm going to give you about 1 minute, and then I want you out of there. They went back in. They were unable to find either of the 2 remaining children. About 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, I ordered them out of the house. Within a matter of minutes, well, a minute after they exited the house, the entire back of the house flashed over in fire. To tell you how hot it was, both of their turnout coats were smoldering, and their helmets were showing the first signs of starting to melt. It was all they could do not to try and go back in a 3rd time, but I wouldn't allow them. For their efforts, we were going to award them the Medal of Valor, and that's Sergeant Ken Kroner, who was a firefighter at the time, and firefighter Tom Koster. This is the medal that they'll be receiving. Thank you very much. That concludes our little program.
We next have a presentation on the 2010 census.
I, too, am delighted that all of these people showed up to hear about the census because it's so important. It involves funding for hospitals, job training centers, schools, public works, and emergency services. So I want to remind everybody to fill out your census when it comes in March, okay? And look for these very nifty little pass-outs that are going to be available in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
And if you would like to get one of your very own lighted Ferndale ball, the census will be at the barbecue on Saturday, February the 6th, behind Dino's at the Ribs Barbecue Burnoff. And I'm told that the first 400 people who attend will get one of those. Thank you, Marcia. Our government tax dollars going to good cause. Madam Clerk, next item.
We have a presentation by the Downtown Development Authority.
Mrs. Hughes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here for Chris Hughes for the Communications and Marketing for the Ferndale DDA. I have one quick announcement, and then we have a presentation. One, we would like to announce that the Ferndale DDA is hosting a series of 3 different community input forums, inviting the public, businesses, consumers, anyone who has any interest in parking in the city to come out and hear what we have learned about parking in our city and to offer us some solutions, have a discussion about the parking situation throughout. These forums will be held on Saturday, January 30th. That's this Saturday at 11 a.m., Monday, February 1st at 7 p.m., and Wednesday, February 3rd at 9 a.m. And the location will be at Rosie O'Grady's at 279 West 9 Mile. And you can get more information about this at downtownferndale.com. These are just sharing information and getting your input. So we'd love to have a great turnout at all of those different forums. And as I said, you can go to downtownferndale.com to get additional details. Also, I'd like to now invite up the woman that helped so much for our Holiday Ice Festival and completely ran the Warm Hearted Cookie Challenge, which was a huge hit this year. We had cookies all over town during Holiday Ice, and we had a lot of different charities that benefited from it. I'm having trouble speaking this evening. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'd like to introduce Sharon Chess, who is going to make a presentation for us.
Hi, Chris is right. We did have phenomenal nonprofits. We had a total of 11 nonprofits compete this year, and they earned just under $2,000 total. So, and the winning nonprofit of the Warm Hearted Cookie Challenge this year is the Ferndale Senior Group, and Jeannie Davis led this group. Now, these seniors went above and beyond the call of any cookie challenger that had gone before them. And it was a very unique way that they chose to get their cookies out to the public that day. And fortunately, the weather was good and there was no snow on the ground because they had decorated up a cart. And a handful of them pushed that cart up and down the streets, in and out of the business doors, harassed, twisted arms, guilted people into donating to their cause. They set up another station at Dino's. Dean Bach was the host for the seniors. They had a table of 3 volunteers there. Again, if you were getting a drink, you were donating. So they did a very clever way of earning the money, and they $370.07 was the amount that they raised, which is almost $100 more than Affirmations raised last year as the first place winner to the Cookie Challenge last year. So I understand that Jeannie has brought an entire crew here to accept on the $200 donation that's being awarded by my husband and I for Chess Roofing and Siding. So if I could invite Jeannie and the crew up, the senior group. And we have, Chris Hughes has come up with a very clever idea. You are going to be accepting our very first trophy. So come on up here and just just line up here along the rail. Come on, it's a lineup. This will be coveted in years to come. Should I give it? Absolutely. Nope, you go ahead. This is your artwork. Give it a spin. Now, because it's it was just a belated idea with finally creating an award. So Affirmation's name is on the 2008 winner, and their name is posted on it. Unfortunately, they will not be able to hold that. We'll make them aware that they are the winners of the trophy, but you will have the honor of hopefully sharing your trophy with Dean Bach, having it on display at Dino's and in your meeting place at the Kulik Center. And in addition to the trophy, I'd like to present you your $200 check. Don't forget to call Chess Roofing and
Small town.
Sharon?
This should be made out to me, shouldn't it?
But thank you very much. And if anybody wants to list the nonprofits and the businesses that competed and the recipes and the amounts that were collected, it's at the back desk. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Can I just thank the DDA for giving us the opportunity to do this and for my seniors. I just said, let's try it, and boy, they just were out full force. I'm so grateful to them. And to Dean Bach from Dino's. And he's even invited us back, so I would assume we behaved.
Thank you. Congratulations, seniors. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
We have a public hearing on the request to transfer ownership and location of a Class C licensed business from Starving Artist at 212 West 9 Mile to Diablo's Tex-Mex at 175 West Troy.
Thank you very much. This is the DDA license, again going from the former Starving Artist to the new Diablos. Any further need for introduction, Mr. Christ?
No further introductions needed, Your Honor, if you're prepared to open the public hearing at this time.
Then we shall. This is a time and place designated for the public hearing for the request to transfer that liquor license, and a time for anyone in the audience who would like to speak on that issue at this time. Seeing no one coming forward to speak on the issue, is there any, we will close the public hearing, and I will go to council and ask if there are any requests for information on the subject. If there isn't, then would there be a motion from council on the subject?
I would move to adopt the resolution concurring with the DDA's findings and recommend to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approval to transfer ownership of a 2009 Class C licensed business issued under MCL 436.15211, non-transferable, with Sunday sales permit and outdoor service, one area, from Starving Artist Restaurant, Inc., transfer location from 212 West 9 Mile to 175 West Troy, Ferndale, and new dance entertainment permit and official permit food.
Motion made by Baker, seconded by Galloway. Any comments or thoughts on the motion from the table or the audience? Yeah, Mr. Kramer is still here, I suspect. No? All right.
Ready to vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, passes unanimously. Next item, Madam Clerk.
That brings us to call to audience, Your Honor.
It does. Call to audience. It is 6 minutes till, so we'll take this portion of the meeting for 30 minutes, taking us to approximately 24 minutes after the hour. This is a time and place for anyone in the audience to speak on any issue that is not on the agenda. We have just a couple of rules. One is that you may please speak for no more than 3 minutes. Less than 3 minutes is ideal. We do ask that you identify yourself, if not verbally, then through written documentation in the back, should we want to get a hold of you, name and address. And we do ask that you respect the integrity of all persons and not engage in any personal attacks of any kind, but to keep it polite as possible. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks. Good evening. My name is Dan Martin, and I'm chairperson of the Ferndale Community Foundation. I'm here this evening to promote our fundraiser this year on Tuesday, February 16th at Via Nove Restaurant. It's the second annual Taste of Ferndale, where area restaurants come in and present their signature dishes for tastes, as well as a silent auction, cash bar, and we'll have live entertainment this year as well. It's from 6 to 9. Tickets are $30 a piece. And all proceeds go to the foundation, which raises money throughout the year to give grants to area nonprofits for projects within the city of Ferndale. So far this year, we have over 13 restaurants participating, including Via Nove, Anita's Kitchen, House Bayou, Rosie O'Grady's and Diablo's, Como's, Pete's Place, Club Bart, Apple Fritter, B Nectar is going to participate, as well as Inyo. So, as well as several others as we progress. So we'll keep adding restaurants. So if you're looking for tickets, you can get them at www.ferndaleCommunityFoundation.org or the city manager's office, or you can give me a call at 248-672-4067.
Thanks, Mr. Martin. And that event is held where?
At Via Nove.
Okay, a great foundation, and Villanova's a fine, fine restaurant.
It's a beautiful location.
Was there Saturday night, a great crowd, just a tremendous place to dine and to hang out. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sean House. I live at 141 Spencer. I'm both here as the president of the South Oakland Area Republicans and also as a Ferndale resident. It's recently come to my attention that the Ferndale Council is going to be considering or is currently considering reducing the number of people in the police department or the fire department, and I would like to strongly encourage you not to do that. We have, for many years here in Ferndale, been able to maintain an excellent rating for our police department and our fire department. We have some of the finest men and women in the entire state, if not in the country. And we have one of the safest cities despite our location in Oakland County. And I'm relatively sure that a good chunk of those folks behind me, and matter of fact, if everyone doesn't mind, could you raise your hand if you support the police and fire in Ferndale? So I would like to ask the council to please do not cut anything regarding the police or the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. House.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Glenn Peary, also a resident of Ferndale for 9 years now, and seconding the speaker before me, I'd like to encourage you to find more creative solutions than cutting our fire and police departments. There was an awful lot of cops here today, but like you, my house was broken into, and like you, the perpetrator was caught and taken care of, and it was thanks to our men and women on the force. So we definitely need to keep them on. This is a border city, and that's very important. And I'd hate to see the fine standing we have in the community as just go down the tubes because we don't have enough people to cover the beats. So thank you.
Thank you kindly.
My name is Saifu Lisanor. I'm from the Blue Nile, those of you who know me. I came here today to support the police and the fire people here, even though I have, personally, I care a little bit less for the cops. But I am here for them to be, because this year alone, I have more than 5 burglaries, accidentally. As a matter of fact, the last one was 2 days ago. I think there were 2 cars parked on Saturday night. It was that busy. At 9:15, even though I have a lot of parking lights, a Cadillac 209 was broken in and the navigation was stolen. Right after I called the cops, 911. Normally, Ferndale is 3 minutes maximum the cops to arrive. This time there was 17 minutes because I locked them. By the time the cop came, he was only 1. We showed him, he was trying to help. There was another one at the same time was done. There was 2 at the same time at the Blue Nile on 9 Mile in Livernois, between Livernois and Woodward. That's where we located. There were 2 incidents this Saturday. And before that, there was 2, which we didn't even report the police for a lot of reasons, because reporting it, as you know, for petty stuff like hubcap and all that, it also goes to statistically to the police. They will still report it, even though if it is as petty stuff as it is. So the crime is high. I hate to admit that, but this is not the time really to cut on the cops. Safety is everything. That's the reputation we have, what we're proud of, and please allow me to ask you, no matter what happens, keep the cops. Keep the hopes alive as well. Thank you.
Sir.
Good evening, City Council. Evan Sissel on behalf of the Environmental Sustainability Commission. I'm presenting a green tip for this month of January. During these cold months, we often find ourselves with the same problem, ice. Though many people develop methods to rid their property of ice, some aren't as eco-friendly as others. Sidewalk salt is the enemy I speak of. In fact, our common household sidewalk salt can be considerably harmful to the environment. Besides sodium chloride, many de-icers contain chemicals like cyanide. When the ice melts, the salts and chemicals dissolve and flow into the street drains that lead directly to the river, endangering aquatic life. So here are a few ways to de-ice surfaces without causing any damage to the environment. 1. Calcium magnesium acetate, CMA, was developed as de-icing alternative because it has few adverse environmental impacts than of regular salt and doesn't cause corrosion. Although CMA is more expensive than rock salt, it is recommended for environmentally sensitive areas. 2. Reduce your salt use. By limiting this amount of salt we use in our sidewalks and driveways, we can reduce the amount of polluted stormwater washing into our waterways. 3. The most important step in de-icing is to physically remove as much ice as possible before applying salt. Adding more salt without removing what is melted can cause an over-application, and that would mean more salt and chemicals end up in our rivers. 4. Besides limiting the amount of salt you use to melt the ice, start thinking about adding native plants to your yard this spring. Plants native to Michigan have deeper roots than turf grass. They also help absorb stormwater and filter out pollutants. 5. Another way to battle slippery sidewalks and driveways is simply add sand to anything from porch steps to porch decks. Now, this surely doesn't melt the ice, though it's just a simple fact that it creates friction underneath your feet, therefore creating a safe walking surface. 6. Try a snow melt mat. If you're installing a new driveway or replacing an old one, lay down electrical wires to heat the driveway from below and radiate heat upwards. Yes, you pay for electricity, so it's not as eco-friendly as shoveling by hand, but on the other hand, it might be better than using chemicals to pollute the water and endanger plants and pets. It would cost someone living in Washington, D.C. area about $14 in electricity each time the system was used, though it doesn't include the cost of installing the system. Electricity costs will vary by region. 7. Remember, de-icer has the main purpose of just loosening ice from below to make it easier to shovel or plow. Please don't pile on de-icer thinking you'll remove the ice completely. The recommended application for the rate of rock salt is around 1 handful per square yard you treat. Calcium chloride will treat about 3 square yards per handful. 8. Choose your salts wisely. Calcium chloride is slightly better since it goes further, but it's still not ideal because its runoff would just still increase algae growth, which clogs waterways. Potassium chloride is another salt to avoid. Whether you use, keep it away from landscapes, plants, especially those that are not particularly salt sensitive, like tulip, poplars, maples, balsam firs, white pines, hemlock, Norway spruce, dogwood, redwood, rose bushes, and sphaeria bushes. 5 problems with salt. The first, excess salt builds up in soil just as they do with chemical fertilizers. 2, salt residue prevents plants from absorbing moisture and nutrients. 3, they can leach into heavy metals which eventually make their way into water supplies. 4, salt grass and other sidewalks lose the road can attract animals, puts them in danger of being hit by cars because they're licking the salt from the ground. 5, plus salt.
Hey, Evan, Sissel, I apologize. We appreciate this, and we appreciate all the work you're doing on the Environmental Impact Commission. I have to limit you to 3 minutes, so I'm going to ask if you would come back to the next meeting and finish.
Yeah, I was just like a paragraph left.
I apologize.
No, that's all right.
We appreciate the work you're doing, especially please clear your ice because I fell last week and hurt myself. But thank you for being here, and
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Kay Watson, I'd just like to say I want to support our police and fire. They are our first responders, and we just heard the captain telling us of the emergencies that we've dealt with here, and it could have been any one of us. We have to care about everybody, and while our economy or our population's down, crime isn't. People are homeless and going hungry. They'll do what they need to do to survive. They are our first responders, and you might consider them like food and water. They're necessary for survival. Do not touch either. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Council. My name is Michael Poole. I live at 1606 West Troy, lifelong Ferndale resident. I would also like to support my fellow officers, Ferndale Police Department, men and women. They are called the Midwest Finest for a reason. Please do not cut any of them. They're all very valuable to all of us residents. Thank you for your time.
My name is Earl Sparkman. I live at 3341 Grayson. I've been a proud resident since 1971. Many occasions over those years I've had an opportunity to experience the skills and the expertise that the Ferndale Police and Fire Department have. However, June the 4th of this year, or last year I should say, I had an opportunity to experience it in a whole different manner, where I was need very badly of emergency medical help, and I got support from the fire, police and excellent care from the fire departments. Nothing concerns me more than the idea that you may cut the budget and have to lay some of these fine people off. I understand, because I own a home, the need to balance budgets. But there's got to be some other way than the two most important things that any of us in this room are looking for. Thank you.
Matt Zuccaro. I live at 900 West Drayton. I'm somewhat new to Ferndale. I've been living here for about 3.5 years. My wife and I love living here. We want to stay living here. And I think everybody here shares the same contention that nobody really has a problem with revitalizing the city or spending money on anything building-wise and cosmetic-wise and just in terms of at all in that way. But I think they're more concerned about the priorities in that regard, and so I just wanted to add that to everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cody Rucker. I have been living in Ferndale for 18 years now and plan to be here a lot longer. I am here to support our Ferndale police. Now, we have spent countless, I'm not sure how much money, but we spent a lot of money building up downtown Ferndale, trying to make Ferndale such a nice city. Now, if we don't have officers, people are not going to feel safe. People are not going to want to live in Ferndale. We have abandoned homes. We have all this stuff. So basically, we've spent all this money to help make Ferndale such a nice city, and it's all going to go to crap. And, you know, I do not want to see that happen because we are one of the safest cities. We have some of the finest men and women on our police forces. So I just want to say, please reconsider laying off our officers. So that's it.
Can I just say something real quick before everybody prays up here? We know, everybody at this table knows how cherished our police and fire department, in particular myself. There's no way we don't want to slash anybody. We don't want anybody to lose their jobs. And we're not even going to get into the nuts and bolts of the budget until March. And no decisions have been made to any layoffs. No decisions have been made to build any buildings. Nothing. Nothing's been done yet. Okay, but we appreciate you coming up. We really do. We appreciate the premise behind the flyer. Okay, but it's unsigned. Unsigned. And that holds no credence with us. You're going to have to sign this in the future to establish better lines of communication with us. Since I got the flyer this weekend, and prior to this meeting, I've talked to both union presidents, and they were left in the dark about this. So just want to let you guys and the ladies know, we're behind you, particularly myself. But let's have a little bit of communication. I'll sit down and talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere, as long as you buy.
Go ahead, sir. My name's Anthony Sims. I'm a resident of Ferndale. I live at 341 West Saratoga. I would also like to echo support for fire and police. We all know how important that is. The issue I wanted to bring up to the council is an issue of parking in and around the downtown area. I've been a resident for about 16 years, and all the residents on the streets that are directly very close to 9 Mile use the street parking for their own purposes. We have since I've lived here. Since we've had a few of the more successful businesses open through the 9 Mile corridor, that parking has become eaten up and isn't really available for the residents. I'd like to ask the council if there's any efforts or any consideration to allowing residents passes to park on the street in and around those areas, and to see if there's any way that we could, because I'm getting parking tickets for parking out in front of my own home. I know the police are trying to catch folks who are parking for hours in residential areas and going to local shops and whatnot. I know we had a little parking demonstration here earlier that we're going to do some things about that in the future. But I think resident passes for parking on the street that you live on seems like it might be a smart idea and might avoid some of the court dates and arguing about parking tickets in residential areas that I've had to do recently. So.
We have addressed that issue in the past, and Mr. Bruner has issued some reports on it. I don't want to go into too much detail at this point. There's pros and cons. There's a downside to parking permits in that you have friends come over and there's nowhere for them to park. But we are looking at it. You did hear there are 3 meetings coming up where the DDA, the chamber, is going to be talking about the possibility of a parking deck. Of course, that requires money. Everything requires money. So if you want to get with the city manager, he will give you his report on the idea of parking passes. But as far as you who live there getting a ticket, I don't understand that. And the chief, the captain is here.
Well, it was the judge today dismissed it, but I had
Sure.
to take time out of my day to go to court to discuss it. And it's posted 2-hour parking. And so I was there more than 2 hours, which they're just recently trying to enforce it to keep some of that down because residents are complaining. But they have no way to discern whether we're parking there because we live there or whether we're parking there and maybe we shouldn't be.
Appreciate that, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, Will Lewis of American Pop, 175 West 9 Mile Road. I want to thank Sharon Chess and the DDA for the ice festival. I think you misunderstood when I talked about the vandalism of the ice sculptures. I didn't say anything negative about the event itself. It was done very well. I think that event and the cookie thing could be done even better if the DDA was to meet within this building. The DDA representatives behind me who own businesses are not within walking distance of the DDA. So it wouldn't be much further to come here. And as we're tossing around words like cutbacks and laying people off, whatever, I don't see anybody coming forward and talking about the plans of refurbishing this building and including relocating the DDA office, which I believe with expenditures and rent is about $4 grand a month. And that would certainly pay for an officer or two. Thank you.
Thank you. It would pay for about a half of an officer, but we appreciate the idea. And we actually spoke and had an hour-and-a-half meeting earlier about this building and how we can save money. But thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Covey, Council. My name is Reef Renforth. I live at 261 Farmdale. I've been a resident of the city for 25 years. I come from a military family and spent a lifetime traveling, and I finally found a place to stay. And I am the part-time caretaker of an apartment building in the city of Detroit. And I can tell you firsthand, I have lived the experiences of police response time, and I think there's no greater quality of life issue. And here in the city, I've had occasion to call the Ferndale Police and step out on my front porch and there's a car pulling up. And that just blows me away. It's phenomenal. And I understand Mr. Lennon says a lot of people are here responding to a rumor. I hadn't even seen or heard of this flyer. Well, this flyer.
I know they're here, and I appreciate that.
I didn't even know that, but I haven't heard anybody else say, I would, as a resident and a homeowner, very gladly support a millage earmarked for nothing more than public safety. I would gladly support that. Well, thank you. I think we all feel the same way. Again, let me say, there's no greater quality of life issue in an urban setting than these men showing up when you need them. God bless you and thank you. That's it. Thank you very much for giving me my moment.
We appreciate the men and women who work with our public safety forces. Mayor Porter, good to see you, my friend.
Good. It's good to see you. Robert Porter, 855 Marshfield, Ferndale. And I apologize for not being here the first meeting of the year, but I had the flu and felt it was probably the best thing not to come down and infect people. As always, I believe it's extremely important as the new year starts that we welcome those, Councilman Galloway on your reelection and Councilwoman Piana for your election, and the council to face some pretty undaunting tasks this year. It's a year that you're going to have to make some strong decisions, and the public is also going to have to think about what's going on, and maybe they're going to need to make decisions as well based on our needs, whether it be public safety issues or a bond millage in that respect or something of that nature. There's a lot of give and take that's going to have to happen. I know what the budget is like in this town, and we're going to have to fight very hard to do that. Councilman Piana, I want to congratulate you. It's the first time I remember somebody coming in on their very first day in the chair and being a co-sponsor of about a 28-page resolution that I think is going to be important to development of programs, I believe programs in the downtown and so forth. It doesn't happen very often, so you hit the ground running, and I knew with your talent you would do so. But Council, I just came here to thank you for being here again this year, and know exactly what the task is you have to do, and ask the public to be involved, communicate openly, as Councilman Lennon had said before, because it's going to be a daunting task. The money is not there, and I know it's going to be a battle. Thank you for your service.
Mayor Porter, before you sit down, let us take a moment. Governor Granholm asked you to step in and help manage the state fair, even though the state fair unfortunately is a victim of further budget cuts from the state. But you did a fine job. You advocated. You tried to hold on to that fair for us, and you're still down there working to keep that property safe, another border, a border to the city of Ferndale. And then I know that we can come to you and ask for your advice when we get into these difficult budget decisions. You've also helped the clerk in terms of acclimating new council members. And I just, on behalf of all the council, I'd like to thank you for your continued service to the city of Ferndale.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to add one little quick thing, and that is you voted at the last council meeting to eliminate certain things, and one of them was your trips out of state, National League of Cities. I passed to Councilwoman Piana tonight just one letter about some of the issues that are being faced in local communities today. Quite often on our trips to the NLC, we gained information through networking with other cities, as well as some of the educational programs that in turn actually paid us back far greater than the money we spent. With today's economic situation, I know to just say we're going to go ahead and put money aside for that is a little tough. But I would recommend that maybe you reconsider that resolution, appointing one member only to represent council at the NLC, review the agendas that are coming up at that particular conference, highlight the issues that council believes are critical to our survival in the city of Ferndale, and I think that'll keep it within a manageable amount and probably be able to maintain our educational budget.
Thanks, Mayor Porter.
Thanks.
Steve Savaggio, Western Market, 447 West 9 Mile. And I know council doesn't want to cut police department, or nor does anybody else, but I am totally grateful for all the people that came out here tonight, hearing rumors around, seeing flyers like Councilman Lennon had talked about. I seen a flyer in my store. I didn't know what it was about. Wasn't signed, or you don't know who's behind it. But rumors fly, and people talk, and people get scared. People play off their fears. I can tell you one thing. I've been here 27 years. And the police department, fire department are not just because I'm here, is the finest I've ever seen. We have some crime. All cities have crime. I feel so safe here. And the reason for the safety is the presence of the police department, presence of the fire department. When you see them go by, you know they're going to be there. I can't tell you how many times I've called the police. I pulled my cell phone out, and as soon as I call the police, people that are in my store that are making trouble, they're gone because they're afraid to mess up in Ferndale. And there's two groups you don't want to mess with. One's the police department, and the other one's the fire department. Don't mess with the police and fire departments. Thank you.
And the third one is don't mess with Steve Savaggio. Any more speakers tonight? We still have... We have 4 more minutes. Anybody else want to speak? Yes, you may.
All right.
You may have 3 if you like.
I just would like to clarify a few things when I said earlier about the incident this Saturday. And the reason why I came also desperately, when I came to this city 7 years ago, and still is, when you pick up a phone, the cops are there. All right?
Yes.
I mentioned earlier when I said 16 minutes, 17 minutes, and I wasn't kidding, it is true. You know why? When I talked to the officer at the same time, I had 2 cars broken at the same time. He told me they were also busy somewhere else. So that shows you how tight, how crime is in the city is coming. So leave alone 2 cars. We need to increase. This is what I'm trying to imply. Okay, I want you to understand me that it is not a lack of that, but there is something is going on. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Debbie Theodoroff, 253 West Saratoga. I've lived in the city since 1973. I'm very proud when I go out and about to speak to anyone that I'm from Ferndale. I'm every politician's dream as far as getting out the vote. You know, if you've got something that you need passed that benefits our city, if you need a new driveway for the high school, if you need anything for the seniors, I hit that yes button every time. I'm proud of my city. I want to see it thrive. I've raised my kids here. I cannot go along with this new building. There's just some things we can't afford right now. And to talk to council right now, I've been watching your discussions amongst yourselves. I have not seen compromise. I have not seen, well, maybe I'll give in to a little bit of this so we can get a little bit of that. It seems to be all or nothing. And the all or nothing attitude is going to fall on us. You know, there is no mandate to any elected official sitting up there tonight. You were voted in by the people. You can be voted out by the people. That's not meant as a threat. I believe in democracy. I believe in doing the right thing. You need to start listening to us. There's some, rational people out here, even though some people may say I'm not, but there's some people out here who are seriously concerned about this building. Myself, build the courthouse. Absolutely, hands down. It's not safe. It's not ADA code-wise, whatever. Courthouse, fine. There is nothing wrong with this building. Nothing that I can see. I don't know. I mean, I come in here, buy my dog tags, and pay my water bill. Everybody says hello, goodbye. That's fine with me. But I just don't see, I would like to see more discussions amongst yourselves that just come to some compromise. Do what we all have to do in our homes. We have to decide what we can have and what we can't have. Thank you.
I just want to share a couple thoughts because I think we're winding down on this portion, and that is that, again, the City Council has not made any decisions on the buildings. As a matter of fact, we are talking a lot. We had a meeting earlier. There is compromise going on. We are all getting along and speaking to each other. We are going to do the right thing. Don't be surprised. We're getting along. We will discuss a millage. All of these are on the table. It very may well be a millage in the fall or in 2011. We are going to keep the city safe. Nobody supports the police and the fire more than the people at this table. So we will do what we can. But you all read the papers. You understand what's going on. You understand that every city in this state has million-dollar budget deficits. The city of Troy, $33 million in cuts. Dozens of people being cut from the city of Troy, Birmingham, Sterling Heights, Royal Oak, Hazel Park. We're going to be smart. We're going to be lean. We're offering retirements. All departments are going to have some cuts. There are no sacred cows, but we'll do our best to keep the city strong, safe. And with that, we're going to move to the next section of the meeting. Thank you all for coming tonight. We'll give them a moment, Madam Clerk, to clear if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
And you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I killed 20 minutes ago. I was starting to cough. I had to leave. What fever is that?
Maybe broke, so I come home. Maybe broke.
You got that water? Yeah, I could have known. Yeah. This is pretty mild. Yeah. It's eating off.
Sharon? Yeah.
I know.
I got his hand.
I know. I shook his hand too.
Cool. Well, it's called Sharon Chess. Is that what it is?
I appreciate you saying that, Mike.
Oh, I mean, I'm science stuff too, right? I know you know.
I so agree with you.
It was too young.
I still don't quite understand it myself.
Are you staying for the smart thing?
Yeah, him and she.
Are you staying for the smart thing?
I called Brendan this morning. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just ran across my feet. Oh. Did you take? Is that my ball? That was my ball.
Up on Facebook, somebody tried to put up all of our cell phone numbers and they got them all. You know why? Somehow they had. Yeah, they were still friendly, but me. I never had that number in my life. I had a number similar to that when the last time they published my cell phone number in the whole city.
That was part of it. I can't get it because I have a broken rib. I'll just.
Yeah. Well, when she posted it, she just.
Yeah, now that's.
Height, build, and I was like, oh shit, I hope I post.
No, he got
when I
inducted
was
into the
playing,
fraternal
I used to have to sit and watch
as an honorary member.
what it was, just constantly bad.
All right, Madam Clerk, shall we continue, folks?
Let's do.
We got a lot more to do. I'm going to ask that if you aren't here to attend the rest of the meeting, that you do take your conversation outside. Thank you kindly. All right, Madam Clerk, let's continue.
Your Honor, we are on the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held January 11th and the special meeting held January 13th. Item B, approval to adopt a resolution of condolence for Elizabeth Jane Betty Sophia. Sorry. Item C, approval to adopt a resolution urging federal legislation to protect against aquatic invasive species. Item D, approval to receive annual planning commission report. E, approval of the email policy for elected and appointed officials and the email policy for city employees. Item F, approval of the city's 2010 membership in the Traffic Improvement Association and to charge the fee of $6,100 to the Major Streets Fund membership. Item G, approval of the release provided by Sticco Mutual Insurance Company for warranty repairs to the city yard 6,000-gallon underground storage tank used for diesel fuel, the reimbursement of $8,969, and to authorize the mayor to sign said release. Item H, approval of a cost-share agreement with the Road Commission for Oakland County to remove the traffic signal on the service drives of I-75 and I-696 at Lenox Street, and to charge the expense of $2,750 to the Major Streets Fund. Item I, approval of a change order and payment of $51,757 to Levant Landscaping for the Ferndale Pedestrian Alley Improvement Project, and Department of Public Works as submitted by the DDA Director and DPW Director. Item J, approval to amend the city manager's goals and objectives as recommended and submitted by the city manager. And finally, item K, approval of the bills and payrolls as certified by the city manager to be paid subject to review of the Council Finance Committee.
Well done, Madam Clerk. Which items would council members like to pull for further discussion?
Item F, please.
F as in Frank.
Yes.
I would like to pull item C as in Craig, item E as in elephant, and item J as in Jerry. Anything else? Madam Clerk?
Your Honor, that was items C, F, and J that are removed
C,
to be
F,
discussed.
and J, and E has also been pulled.
And E. Thank you.
4 items altogether. And then is there a motion to adopt the remaining items?
Supported.
Baker moves and Galloway seconds the consent agenda, which is items A, B, D, G, H, I, and K. Discussion, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Lennon is absent from the table. Council members Piana, Yes. Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
We are on to regular agenda item A, appointment to boards and commissions. First up, Board of Review.
Thank you. I guess I can introduce the Board of Review. These two members are being submitted, William Brown and Thomas King. I believe they're both currently on and just being reappointed.
I believe, Your Honor, that Mr. King has been serving and, I'm sorry, let me just find the item.
In any case,
Bill Brown has been an alternate, Mr. King has been a regular, and Mr. Singh, our assessor, is recommending that we appoint William Brown as a regular member and Mr. King as an alternate member.
very good. And so we have these two as nominees. Is there a motion or a request? I'm sorry, is there a request for information?
I guess a request through the chair to the city manager. Do we know, did Mr. King request to be the alternate, or do we know why the assessor recommended that switch? I mean, I don't see Mr. King here to protest, but.
I'm actually not sure if that was Mr. King's request. Well, Mr. King's term expired.
Okay.
He expressed an interest to continue, but I'm not sure if that interest was explicitly as the alternate or as the regular. The Board of Review process, as some of the council members may know, is very intense. It requires a major time commitment. So having been through that once, I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. King wanted to take that alternate role. But I think there was also, he wasn't available to attend a state training for Board of Review members, and Mr. Brown was.
Thank you. If there aren't any other questions, I'll move that we appoint William Brown as a member and Thomas King as an alternate member of the Board of Review for terms ending December 13th, 2011.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there a second?
Support.
Galloway seconds Baker's motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey.
Yes, as well, unanimous vote. Next item is Board of Zoning Appeals. Because of my voice, Mr. Bruner, would you mind introducing?
Yes, the mayor is the appointing authority for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Due to Councilmember Piana's appointment to the BZA as council liaison, there's a vacancy on the board in addition to 2 alternate positions.
Thanks. I reviewed all 3. They looked good to me. They were okayed by our CDS director. And so while they are mayoral appointees, our tradition is that council still motions and seconds.
I would move to appoint Tom McDonald to fill the seat vacated by Councilmember Melanie Piana, and Jason Arnold and Scott Levasseur as, is that right, Mel?
Levasseur.
Levasseur? Oh, you haven't met him yet? Yeah. As alternates to the Board of Zoning Appeals with terms ending December 31st, 2012. I support.
Well done. Motion made, Baker, seconded, Piana, for those 3 items. Folks, discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Covey.
Yes. Unanimous votes again. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
We have regular agenda item B, consideration of council goals and objectives.
Mr. Bruner, would you introduce for us?
Thanks, Your Honor. Back in December, the council and myself and department heads participated in a strategic planning retreat. During that strategic planning retreat, a draft goal statement was prepared. This is, I think, the 3rd time we've been through this process since I've been city manager, so many of you may recall that the next step in the process for the council to adopt these goals is to assign responsibility for developing action strategies for each goal and objective.
Right now, it's a kind of a very short skeleton of a goal statement, and so the next step in the process is basically to put some meat on the bones. Staff's been given that responsibility in the past, and I recommend that the council direct the staff to do that again tonight. If council agrees, that process will move ahead, and the revised goal statement will be brought back to the council on March 8th, which is when the fiscal year ending 2011 budget will be introduced. The council can then consider the goals and objectives as it goes through the budgeting process, hand in hand, and then finally, after at the end of the budgeting process, the council members, the council can adopt the goal statement, and then also with that budget to support it. And then once that step in the process is continued, the city managers and the department heads will put together a reporting schedule to report back on their progress in achieving those goals.
Thank you, Mr. Bruner. We all were at the retreat and recall that. Any questions on this initial set of goals? I guess I had one, and that is that even though we adopt these, and I'm part of the process, I guess I always want it to be understood that we have lots of other goals. I mean, these are like the 5 main ones, but, you know, I just want to make sure that we also can say that we want this to be a walkable community, and that we want to have more bike lanes, and we want to, I mean, am I out of line in saying that, well, these are the main goals, that this isn't it strictly?
Well, the way I think the council should look at these are the things that the council wants to achieve within the coming fiscal year. You know, increasing bike lanes, that's a specific goal, so if the council wants to incorporate that into these goals, that would be appropriate. You know, but the overall idea of, you know, having a walkable community, that's a little bit broader. That's more of kind of a mission or a vision statement kind of issue. So the council is not going to adopt these goals tonight. The council will direct the staff to flesh them out a little bit more, and the council will have an opportunity to have more input on these goals and objectives throughout the budgeting process. So if the council wants to add things or delete things, there's still plenty of time for that. This is more of an early step in the process than an ending point.
I appreciate that. It's just sometimes I feel like we do all this and it's all planned in a process, but then, you know, if in summertime Councilwoman Baker and I decide or mention that we want public art, or we'd like to see some paintings on buildings or something, is this kind of smaller item isn't just disregarded because it doesn't come under a comprehensive technology plan.
But I would argue that it probably would come under some of the economic development goals that we have. So I would see this as a structure or sort of a lens through which we view our priorities for the year. You know, every year I have certain duties at my job that I always have to perform, and then every year I lay out the additional projects that are kind of the new things on the plate. Some of them might be finite, others might be ongoing. So I guess I would say if we decided we wanted to do something with public art this summer, then we would take a look back at this and we would say, you know, where are we placing it? Does it fit in with economic development? And maybe that's how we move forward.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I concur. I share a lot of your values about how we grow, and I see that as being directly related to the economic development plan. Also, in terms of the master plan implementation, too, are we following what we actually set out to do starting in 2008? So are we accomplishing those things? So they're all related.
So those are in there, even though it's not right here about follow the master plan, that's there, and we know that and remember that. I appreciate that. It's just a different way I look at things. Thanks. Other thoughts or questions? Otherwise, are you looking for a motion, Mr. Bruner?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then, is there one?
Sorry, I got you the wrong page. I would move to direct the city clerk, police chief, and fire chief, to provide recommended action strategies for each relevant goal and objective to the city manager by February 19th, 2010. But I assume the city manager is also in the mix with helping develop those action strategies. Okay,
Yeah.
it's just phrased really funny.
Is there a second to Councilwoman Baker's motion?
I second.
Piana seconds. Councilwoman Baker, thank you. Further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes, passed unanimously. Item C, Madam Clerk.
Consideration of SMART participation?
Thanks, Your Honor. Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation, or SMART for short, is Metro Detroit's public transportation authority. During, I believe it was the last council meeting, Councilmember Baker asked whether or not the Ferndale City Council needed to do anything to keep Ferndale opted in to SMART, because there has been a lot of talk recently about some communities opting out, or Farmington Hills actually. They discussed the issue and decided to stay in. After doing a little research and discussing it with the city attorney, we found that there is actually no action required to stay in. There's only action required to opt out. But since there have been some recent news stories about communities opting out, I thought bringing this issue forward to the Ferndale City Council might be good, to give you an opportunity to reaffirm your support for public transportation, assuming that's still something this council supports.
Or opt out.
And hopefully, provide a little bit of a counter narrative to some of the news going on about communities opting out.
Were only those cameras still here?
Thank you. Thanks for that introduction. Questions? Or, Councilwoman Baker, did you have any questions or thoughts?
No, I just thank you for following up on that. It's been something I've been getting emails about from Transportation Riders United, which is an organization that the city is a member of, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't accidentally opt out through inaction, which I'm glad the opposite is true. You stay in through inaction. So I would move to reaffirm the Ferndale City Council's commitment to public transportation and the SMART system.
Second. Thank you. Seconded by Councilman Lennon. Motion by Kate Baker. Discussion. It's a great idea. We need to confirm and affirm this and hope that more cities get involved and less opt out. Madam Clerk?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
And Mayor Covey?
Yes, passes unanimously. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have amended agenda item D, which is consideration of adoption of the following resolution. The council constitutes the legislative and governing body of the city and has the power and authority to adopt such resolutions as it deems proper in order to exercise any or all of the powers possessed by the city, according to City Charter, Chapter 3, Section 2. And the police department is in the Division of Safety, City Charter, Chapter 3, Section 11, and the Division of Safety is under the supervision, direction, and control of the council, City Charter, Chapter 3, Section 12. And the council appoints a chief of police who has charge of the police department, and the chief of police serves at the pleasure of the council, City Charter, Chapter 3, Section 16. And the council provides for such deputies and assistants to the chief of police as it deems necessary, Charter, Chapter 3, Section 16. And the council believes a workforce reduction will be necessary in order to balance the fiscal year ending 2011 and subsequent general fund budgets. And the police department is the largest department of the city government and accounts for nearly 38% of the total estimated fiscal year ending 2010 general fund expenditures, equal to $7,205,000. I'm sorry, $7,205,409. And the council believes it should consider workforce reductions in every department of the city government before adopting the fiscal year ending 2011 budget. And the pleasure of the council is for the police department administration to provide professional advice regarding workforce reductions in the police department before adopting the fiscal year ending 2011 budget. Therefore, be it resolved that the Ferndale City Council directs Chief of Police, or in his absence, Captain Timothy D. Collins to prioritize the attached list of fiscal year ending 2010 Police Department positions from 1 to 65, where 1 is the first position he would recommend the council eliminate, and 65 is the last position he would recommend the council eliminate. And the Ferndale City Council directs the Chief of Police, Michael Kitchen, or in his absence, Captain Timothy D. Collins, to submit this prioritized list and nothing else on one legible page to the city manager by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, January 27th, 2010.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions or requests for information from the council?
I'd like to ask the captain a question. Sure. Captain, have you already done this?
No, this is the first I've heard of it. I didn't even see it on the agenda.
And is Wednesday enough time?
I don't believe so. The chief is out of town, and I would like to...
well, I'm sure you'd like to confer with him.
Absolutely.
I think it's such a very important topic that Wednesday, it just does not give him enough time to prepare. I know the chief's out of town, and I know he's watching right now.
Yes, he is.
Because I got a text. Yeah. So, Chief, we're going to wait till you get back, I hope, and that depends on my colleagues.
I have a question. Didn't the city manager already request this information at a last city council meeting?
This request is a little bit different than what I requested. What I had requested of each department head was to provide a list of options, each totaling 20% of a department's budget. I did not explicitly ask for a prioritized list of positions.
Okay.
Did you get what you needed? Did you get the 20% reduction?
I got something that resembled the discussion of a reduction in the police department budget, but it wasn't in the format that I had asked for it or in the amounts totaling what I had asked for.
Well, it helps city council, I guess. So what you're saying is that the format that you got limits our ability to make informed decisions based on what the department, based on what you've asked for?
I don't think the information that's been provided to date would be as helpful to you as the information that you're considering requesting today.
Okay.
Mike, anything else you want to ask?
I'm all set.
If I may, Your Honor, this is the first that anybody has requested this type of information whatsoever. I would like to point out that had that been requested of me or through the chief, I would have certainly provided it. It seems like this is like...
well, we're going to probably ask tonight for it then.
I understand that. I just wanted to say that this was not on the agenda. Had it been, I could have worked on this or even looked at it. It seems like this is something that came in at the last minute. And at no time was the police department at any time asked to provide any type of information as being requested now.
What is the time frame, Mr. Bruner? In other words, there was a deadline of tomorrow, was there not, for something?
Well, I had asked the department heads for the list of options by last Friday because I intend to prepare my first draft of budget recommendations this week. I'll be out of town in the weeks ahead, so I had planned on distributing my recommendations to the department heads next week so that they could respond and provide feedback. I could then finalize them in time to present them to the council on March 8th. So it's critical that if this information is going to be incorporated as part of my draft recommendations, that I have it this week. It's not absolutely necessary that I have additional input from the police department. I can draft recommendations without that, but I'm not a police officer and never have been, so if I don't have that additional information, then my recommendations aren't going to be as well informed as they could be.
Do you have any questions or requests for information, Mr.
Yeah, my only issue is that scoring them 1 through 65 to me is of limited value that I believe without explanation, specifically being told that you just give them a number score doesn't, in my opinion, give you the flavor and the importance of why you would score one a 64 and one a 65 and one a 23, and just scoring them one, it seems very, very, very basic without allowing additional information in a scoring-type format. This is just my opinion.
We certainly understand that. I think.
Well, we're not
Go
making
ahead.
any budget decisions ultimately anytime soon. So maybe we could get the scoring and then the notes later on. I mean, unless you, it sounds like what you're proposing is a lot more work.
Well, it's a very important issue, Councilman. I believe it would require a lot more work than a simple numbering system. If that's what Council's asking me for, but specifically if I understood the resolution, it was just a simple scoring system and nothing else, and it didn't want any explanation.
Here's my thought on it, and then you,
Okay,
Melanie,
sure.
or Councilwoman, is, we did have a retreat back in December. We all know we've got some tough decisions. We're not asking you to make any final decisions. We're not ready to make final decisions, but time is going forward, and we do know that every department is going to lose. There's going to be a reduction in workforce. Certainly, it would be hard to figure out who's the 63rd most important or 64th. It'd be pretty subjective, but we have to get something to start with. And I guess this goes back to, again, the idea of, how many dispatchers is critical versus secretaries versus sergeants or lieutenants or the special ops folks, the person who works for the narcotics task force or the Department of the DEA. So we need something, and we need something soon. So is there a date that would be easier for you, later in the week? Again, this is nothing cast in stone.
Well, I would certainly like to have the chief back in town to have face-to-face discussions with him before we would submit some document of this magnitude that will have that much weight, or potentially have that much weight down the road.
He's not back until February 3rd.
Correct.
That's 2 weeks away.
Mhm. I have
Go ahead,
I have a
Councilwoman.
suggestion. Mr. Bruner said that last Friday was the deadline for the department heads to submit their options, and he indicated that the format that he received those in were not what he had really asked for. So perhaps that we have the police chief complete those actions, and then,
As an alternative to this?
well, I think it would be part of the activities that we're asking the police chief to complete. So complete the assignment from last Friday in the manner in which the city manager has asked, and then perhaps give the police chief few extra days or so to complete this additional alphabetical or listing of order of positions here, and so that Mr. Bruner can achieve his deadlines and move forward.
It's a compromise. That's a potential amendment or.
So what you're recommending is complete the assignment that was previously requested and then also do this, not either or.
But the first one's due perhaps Wednesday at noon, and that's
Yes.
due February 5th or something.
Would that get you further along?
Well,
I guess
my only thought was I would presume that what the police chief turned in, he felt complied with the request. So, maybe just the 65 is the best way to handle it.
Well, if I may, Your Honor, let me put it this way. Each one of you has a copy of the memo in which I made the request to the department heads. Each one of you has a copy of the memo in which I clarified the request to department heads. And you also have a memo of what the police department provided. So you can draw your own conclusions as to whether or not what the police department provided complied with what my request was. I think the more important question for the council is, was that information helpful to you as you are looking ahead to the budget process, and what additional information would you like? Because I have other ways of getting information about police departments and police department staffing and police department operations, so I encourage you to seek out the information that you need from our police department.
Just another thought, this doesn't have to be the definitive list. Our budget's not due for several months now. I mean, we could have a preliminary that could be amended or changed or further explained down the road.
Very good point. Other requests for information? All right, well, there is a motion on the table, unless I hear a motion to amend. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It has not been there's not a motion on the table. So this was just introduced. I apologize. Is there a motion then?
Well, I mean, it sounds like the information is needed, so I would move adoption of the resolution.
I support.
The motion was made, Galloway, seconded by Piana. Now, any further discussion? I think this is pretty critical stuff, and we are moving forward. We need to move forward, and so we are asking our chief and the captain to provide this for us. And it can be viewed as a draft, as a first draft, and knowing that some of those lines or numbers can be subjective, but it gives us an idea of who is critical and where we can think about removing or reducing staff members. And again, remember that we're still going through retirements and requests for voluntary requirements. So ideally, there may be no layoffs when it comes down to it. Any further discussion?
Well, I just want to say I would have to vote no for this simply because of the timeline. And the first I saw it was tonight. And the numbering system, I don't know what that is. How do you single out somebody and say, well, you're not important, but you're important? I mean, it really doesn't work that way in law enforcement. I mean, everybody's equally important. Everybody has a precise job to do. So I understand where you're coming from, Mayor Scott, but I can't support it.
Well, I guess my only thought is that's going to be the very question we're going to have to ask ourselves up here, is who's the least important person in the department for them to carry out their mission, and we're going to have to do that with every department. So it doesn't have to be the final word on it. I expect it probably won't be the final word on it, but it's a starting point for discussion.
Right.
I guess go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, it goes back to our strategic planning sessions about what services are we going to prioritize in the police department as well, and that goes back down to staffing levels. Unfortunately, we have to have these conversations. I don't want to be having these conversations, but we need to. So I think it's important that we have this information to help us make the decision. You know, I have never been part of a police department either, so you are the experts in telling us what are the best options to provide the service levels based off of the budget cuts that have been put forth.
I would only add that you understand that union contracts come into, you could prioritize a certain person that you wanted to remove, but if his number was higher than somebody that was already a lower seniority person, I mean, and if you just said patrolmen in patrol officers in general, they would actually have all the same number, and depending on, I mean, you could say we didn't want any more evidence techs, but if I have an evidence tech that is junior to someone who's not an evidence tech, I mean, there's an infinite number of possibilities. That's why I say the 1 through 65 numbering system, without explanation, it has some very limited value.
Well, again, this can come back with further information later, and just so folks watching understand, these are not individuals' names. These are clerk, typist, crossing guard, detective lieutenant, specialist detective. So,
I mean, the way I would interpret this is, so we've got 7 crossing guards here. If crossing guard number 6's name is Sue Smith, I wouldn't anticipate you singling out crossing guard number 6, Sue Smith, because she doesn't do a good job, but I might expect you to say, well, we don't need crossing guards 6 and 7, meaning that we can get the job done with 5 crossing guards. Is that the way other people anticipate this?
Yeah, and if we go down to 5 crossing guards, what services or what reduction in covering that services is going to happen? What's the consequence of it?
You have to take a police officer off the street and put him at an intersection.
We're statutorily mandated to cover crossing guards by the state law, just so you know. It's not a city or a school district function. It is a police function, although that's probably here nor there, but it's still, my point is that eliminating specific functions from the police department, I understand that I have no intention of putting names to faces. My point is that if you eliminate a function of the police department, it might be a junior person that accomplishes that function, and you couldn't by contract remove that person because he's a junior person, because you might eliminate a person that you would have to pull somebody who was senior to the junior person in order to fill that.
Well, we understand,
mandate.
and that might happen.
No, I mean, my point is you couldn't do that. That we would. That's why this numbering system is somewhat difficult to understand.
Think what could, and I'm just sort of looking at this the first time this evening as well, but if we had all the crossing guards, for example, or all the clerk typists or whatever, records coordinator, secretaries, if we had all those people at the bottom, and we recognize that we have to have some of those people, but then we still have maybe night shift officers are 8, and day shift officer 8, and police or afternoon shift police officer 10 are all the next ones, then maybe that means we can do, I would interpret that as meaning we can get by with one less police officer, patrolman each shift. I think that's the kind of information we need in order to start the discussion of how are we going to rearrange the police department.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that's going to happen, so we need the information. It's all relative, and if the captain's the #1 position in the department and the specialist traffic control officer is the 65th, then that helps us with the relative, assigning of importance. So even if the 65th position is not, or the 23rd position is not something that we're ultimately going to eliminate, that helps us understand better how what the department needs in order to get its mission accomplished.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Piana,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Galloway,
Yes.
Lennon,
No.
Mayor Covey.
Yes, motion passes 4-1. Madam Clerk, next item.
Could I get a copy of that resolution, because it wasn't part of the packet? If I could, please.
Absolutely.
We are back to consent agenda item 7C, resolution urging federal legislation to protect against aquatic invasive species.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. I'll handle this first one quickly. Without reading it, this is a resolution, obviously, to urge further protection against invasive species. The Great Lakes have been devastated for the past 40 years by a host of species brought in by barges and foreign vessels. The reason I pulled it, Madam Clerk, you and your staff did a great job. I would simply like to make a change if someone would so move. If you look on the back of it where it talks about therefore be it resolved that the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence cities, what I'd like to do at each point of the 6 further resolves is that it says Great Lakes and St. Lawrence cities and including the city of Ferndale urges the federal. So each of those paragraphs, it would say Great Lakes Cities Initiatives, including the city of Ferndale, urges the cities and towns of the Great Lakes.
Very good.
All righty? So I'm hoping someone at the table would move that.
So moved, as amended by the mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. And seconded by Councilwoman Baker. Pretty important issue to our economy and our ecology. Discussion, Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana? Yes. Mayor Covey.
Yes, and would we forward that to the appropriate officials, Madam Clerk? And
Absolutely.
if we can find the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative address as well. Next one we pulled was item E, the email policy. Again, that was me, if I may so, Madam Clerk. My only issue with it, I appreciate the hard work you did. I understand the law. I had one issue with it, and that is that, I'm going to lose my voice, but with regards to email, he talks about trying to separate personal email and city email. Let me just explain my issue. I have work email at work that's, at work and paid for by work, and I can't mix city or political work with my work.
Right.
And then I have my personal email. And that's what I use for city work, because we don't get an email through the city. So I wouldn't even know about how to go about setting up a third, and whether it'd even be proper to set up a third email account that's just for the city. So, I mean, is there any advice for us, or how do the rest of you doing it? Because I don't separate my personal email and my city or political.
I would recommend that you ask Councilwoman Piana, who is the queen of Gmail.
Do you use Gmail?
I don't know.
Well, I have folders. I use Gmail, and I have folders, so I categorize every email that comes in, police, fire, planning commission.
Lord.
Yes, I'm
I
very
can't do that.
attentive to my email, but I'm like that, so I can find it again. But I would recommend that you could create another email address, and you can have it forwarded to your personal email account. So you can have, that's what I do. I have 2 email addresses that come to my one account, and that is a very common thing to do. So you only log in once, but you have
both folders.
How about I drop my computer off at your house?
I think ultimately the best solution is that the city solves its email problems internally and provides an email address, and I hope to do that under that technology plan this year.
Yeah, Sherilyn, then again, my quandary is that I didn't even understand what Melanie said, but because I'm old and, friends have set up my account. So, I mean, I can survive the way it is, and if at some point the Freedom of Information Act wants to take my emails, I guess they can, but how come we don't have city email addresses?
Everybody in the city does with us.
That's a good question.
It's a question of capacity.
Let me try to.
I don't mean to open a can of worms. I just.
Oh, no.
Oakland County hosts the city's email. So as mail comes in over the internet, it comes to Oakland County servers, and then city employees like me, when we access our email, we have to download it to local city computers. Because Oakland County does not provide us with sufficient storage to store all our emails on their servers. If we exceed our quota, we stop receiving emails. So we have to download it to city-owned computers. You don't have city-owned computers. So you would have no way to download it. You'd have the same problem, basically, as you with a city account that you had to download messages to, as you do with the AOL or Gmail or others. So that's why we don't have city email accounts for elected officials at this point. It's certainly on the to-do list and will remain on the to-do list until it gets done. But it's a big undertaking, so it hasn't been done yet.
And Your Honor, if I may, the policy does provide for you to forward your permanent record emails to me, and I will deal with retention. We had discussed before, even though it'd be somewhat onerous, but it's doable. If emails regarding city business, if I'm copied on them, then I just become the repository for them, and I handle the retention.
How do you know the person does that? I mean, what if I say, okay, I'm going to do that, and I copy you on almost everything, and then I send a secret email to Scott?
See, I don't know that, and that's why we now have a policy putting the responsibility on you, though I'm certainly willing to help to the extent you allow me to.
I know you will.
I'll come over and help set you up.
I appreciate it.
And I'm to provide training as well, so I'll come with Melanie, and together we can get something workable that does not take up the rest of your free time.
Make you hold my hand, but I appreciate that a lot. Okay, I just wanted to ask those questions. So, did anyone else have any issues with that policy? No?
And did you all receive Mr. Gagne's comments regarding the policy?
I think we covered them.
I believe so as well.
Okay.
So then, I guess we need a motion to adopt it or approve of it.
What item?
This is item 7E.
I move that we adopt agenda item number 7E as presented.
Very good. Second? Second. By Lennon. Thank you. Motion by Baker. Discussion. Madam Clerk?
Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Covey?
Yes. Item F, Madam Clerk.
Approval of membership to the Traffic Improvement Association. This is Mr. Fatides.
Thank you. Who pulled?
This was me.
Thank you. Do you want to share what or do you want Byron to introduce it?
Well, I pulled it because this association is a new association that I've never heard of.
Come up, Byron.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions for you. And this is a new association that I've never heard of, and I've heard a lot of the transportation associations in Southeast Michigan and Oakland County. And so I was just wondering if you could inform me about what they do and what benefit they provide to the city, and are we getting the benefits that equal $6,000 and or over that in terms of the benefits and services that they provide us? I bring this up because all the other memberships that we have with the Woodward Avenue Action Association, the 8 Mile Boulevard Association, TRUE, those memberships, those executive directors come here and explain to us why we should continue our membership with them and explain the benefits that we've received. So I'm just wondering just what this association does on behalf of Ferndale.
Well, it's an association that's over 40 years, I think, 42 years. The city, it's Oakland County, it's various cities here that fund an organization that provides, for the most part, services to the police department through training, crash safety data, so they can make the decisions that they need to make regarding traffic safety issues in the city of Ferndale. Now, I'm not an expert on that. That's the police department could address that. But for my years with the city, we have used the association where they come in and they bring their resource people down. And if the city has an issue, for example, when they wanted to narrow 9 Mile Road, and they wanted to study what impact that would have on traffic flow, not only on 9 Mile, but in the surrounding neighborhoods. The Traffic Association came down here, did a study, made a recommendation to the city of Ferndale. Traffic, bike safety, not bike safety, bike lanes on Pinecrest, Hilton Road. We asked them to study that. They've looked at when we tried to narrow Hilton Road, and that was a bottleneck at 696. We had to change that. Any kind of issues that would affect the traffic flow in the city, they will bring and they will do their study. Absent that, the city would have to hire a consultant.
Okay. It's my understanding that the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments provides crash data for all the cities on major corridors and streets, and so I'm wondering if there's a duplication of services here.
You have to ask that through the police department. I don't involve myself with that. I don't know if that's just generic information that they provide them. They do provide training. I don't know if the captain would address that issue as to what the traffic control officer does. Does he go to any other kind of training? But whenever, from my department standpoint, whenever there's been an issue and the council has wanted a study, a traffic study, they have asked the Traffic Improvement Association to come down. They're trained. Whether there should be a stoplight at this intersection, should we take a stoplight down, et cetera, et cetera. As I said, the big ticket, for example, when the city 10 years ago decided to cul-de-sac Inman, Horton, Minerva, Horton, and I think Inman, because of the traffic flow from the businesses that was going as a cut through the neighborhood to get to 696. We had a study there. Now, we couldn't do that internally, so the city would have had to hire a consultant. So I'm just saying what they've done in the past, what the city has asked, and that request has come from the Ferndale City Council. They've asked for a study. We call TIA, or the police department calls TIA. They come down, they do the study, they present it to the city council, and then the city council makes a decision. Beyond what they do periodically with the police department, I can't answer that. You could probably ask the police department that.
So, for example, if we wanted to look again at whether or not a traffic light was warranted at the intersection of Vester and Woodward,
well, I guess you could get their input, but that's a state trunk line. They're going to study that, whether it warrants it.
That's still an MDOT situation. That's
still MDOT and so forth. But for example, if you had a situation where you wanted, someone brought up permit parking, and you wanted to study the impact on the streets adjoining the downtown area.
That's a great idea.
You would ask TIA to come down, pardon me?
So this is something that we could provide?
You could ask TIA to come down, we could make a request, and this is what we want to do. Let's say, for example, there was a request to cul-de-sac Troy at Allen,
Okay,
you know, and you want to see what impact that would have.
all right. Well, I'm interested in knowing what studies they did for 2009 under last year's membership, and I'm just curious, did we get our money's worth?
Well, through the chair, it's on an as-needed basis. I couldn't tell you what it would cost us to pay a consultant. I know, for example, I sit on SACRA's board, and we had an issue with the city of Madison Heights regarding a traffic signal a driveway they actually wanted us to put on John R. that would allow their senior citizens a new access to the Senior Citizen Center that adjoins the transfer station there. We had to hire a consultant.
Mm.
So I couldn't tell you what it would cost if you were to go out. But
Well, I'm just wondering how many surveys they have done on behalf of the city.
excuse me.
For that year.
Well, I don't think they have done any. That's by council. I don't think the council's requested anything from them because an issue hasn't come up.
So we're not using the service in which we are paying for.
You don't use them. If you don't need them, you don't use them. If you need them, you use them.
Let's use them.
Or if we don't use them, let's not pay for it.
Well, maybe we can table this for 2 weeks and invite
Yeah,
TIA
is
to
that
come in
okay?
and give us a report of all the.
Well, and that's a good suggestion because this issue is not the first time this has come up. This has come up before, and TIA has come down and given a summary of what they do countywide, the training they provide, and so forth. I mean, TIA has come down. This is not the first time that this has been questioned.
It would be the first time in either Councilwoman Piana's or my tenure, so I would appreciate that presentation.
You certainly can invite them. I mean, they certainly could give you a much more detailed explanation than I could.
Yeah. I think what you've explained tonight is a valuable service for the city, but I want to go back to make sure that we're getting our money's worth, and I definitely want to keep this service to the police department because they seem to be the regular users of the TIA based off of your background here that you wrote up. So, but I like Councilman Galloway's suggestion of delaying approving this membership for tonight, just so that we have more information about what they're going to do for us in 2010 and how do we take advantage of it in a better way so that we do get our money's worth.
As we are a city with parking problems.
Pardon me, I didn't
As
hear.
we are a city with parking problems.
Yes.
Yes.
Captain, did you want to say something, sir?
No, I was just here if I had any questions. Although the police department does avail itself to the TIA on a more routine basis, although not for consulting for the change in traffic flows and widening or narrowing of streets, although that is done obviously through the city council, we do access them for some of the other services they do, and that does not include crashes, that is, but it does include warranted traffic control devices, traffic counts and studies for when we want to change or there's a request to change traffic control patterns or traffic control devices. And they also are a resource for training as well. So we have, they are the go-to people for the newest, latest, and greatest in traffic improvement. And they put on a routine seminar every month, I believe, and our traffic enforcement officer attends those regularly. And I have as well. It's a very informative seminar.
Captain, would they have any say or help in a matter that we're going to be talking about in the future regarding like the pedestrians that are getting hit on Woodward and our desire to reinstall a crosswalk, or is that not in their purview?
They could certainly have some input on those type of matters. Like you said earlier, that is a state trunk line. The final decision would be MDOT.
Right.
But they would be a resource that could give you a more even-keeled type of information. So you know you're getting some that they don't have a stake in whether or not there's a traffic control device put there or a crosswalk put there. They have no, they don't have a dog in that fight, if you will.
Thanks, Captain. Melanie, then do you have what you need to, or would you like to make a motion, or does someone wish to do so? Councilman?
I would move that we table consideration of the city's approval of 2010 membership in the Traffic Improvement Association until such time as representative of the TIA is able to present to the city council present to the city council regarding services provided to the city over the last 5 years.
Okay. A list of what they've done for us?
Yeah.
Second, Melanie?
I second that.
Councilwoman Piana, apologize. Motion made, seconded, Galloway, Piana. Further discussion. Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker? Mayor Covey?
Yes, passes unanimously. Last item was item J. Very quickly again, Mr. City Manager, I just didn't understand your memo. I know that you were going to make some changes to your goals and objectives, but when I read your memo, it was unclear to me what you were changing.
Okay.
Is there a way you could very briefly tell us what's coming and what's going, or?
I will try. The cover memo itself includes the changes. So attached to that cover memo was my last update, which includes the complete goals and objectives. So under goal number 1, maintain strong financial position.
Right.
I'm proposing adding objectives 5, 6, and 7 to 1 through 4, which are already there. Those are things that we talked about back in June as we began talking about next year's budget, but did not formally add them to my list of goals and objectives. Under number 4, improve operational efficiency and effectiveness. Basically, number 1 is staying.
I understood that. Actually, I'm good with number 4.
Okay.
I understood, because it was clear you were crossing off some stuff and then adding some stuff. I guess, okay, I appreciate it. And if this were the section of requesting information, so under goal 1, then you are saying one of your objectives is to hire a technical consultant under contract to complete a cost allocation plan and user fee analysis for services. All right. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, when I discussed my progress report at the last meeting, I explained to the council that in the past, the department heads have basically done a user fee survey. They survey surrounding communities, see what other communities are charging for service, but we don't have the capacity to do a real user fee analysis of what it costs the city of Ferndale to provide those services. It could be more than the other communities, it could be less. So this proposal to do an actual cost allocation plan and a user fee analysis would help make sure that the city is recovering the cost of providing services that provide benefits to individuals, such as recreation programs, versus community-wide benefits are things like police and fire services.
I understand, and you believe that we would need to hire a technical consultant to do that?
Yeah, I specifically discussed with staff whether or not they felt we had the capacity to do that internally, and they said that we do not. On the other hand, we do have the capacity internally, Ms. Humanks believes, to do a cash flow analysis.
All right. And number 7, hire a technical consultant under contract to conduct budgeting and financial management seminar for the council. Are you looking at another consultant to do another seminar for us for this budget?
This would be basically a kind of a refresher course on finance and budgeting before the council, before the budgeting process begins.
All right, thanks.
I have a question, suggestion. Number 5, if you could share an example of what that looks like, if you could get one from, I don't know, another city, could you share that with us just so I have a better idea? Because I'm a little confused, too, about what end product we would get out of that.
Which one specifically?
Number 5, objective 5, please.
Cost allocation plan, the user fee analysis, or both?
Okay. I guess both.
Okay.
Nothing complicated here, just see if you can get one from another city if they've done one, and share with us. I think that would be helpful.
Okay. So then we would need a motion on this topic, item J.
Well, Bob, I'll move that we amend the city manager's goals and objectives as recommended by the city manager. If that's seconded, I have a few additional comments on it.
Support.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker.
I think our thoughts up here, Bob, are that certainly we understand the limitations of the office and of your staff to do some of these things. I think we should always proceed with eye towards, keeping the costs down and keeping things in-house where we can. We'll take a look at your proposals here and go on a case-by-case basis. But we certainly need this stuff done. But if we're looking at TIA not consulting, maybe bringing that in-house, then we need to do some of this other stuff.
Well, yeah, and don't forget that if we were going to hire a technical consultant to complete any project over $2,500, that would have to come before the council for approval anyway. So if we find out that some of these projects are more expensive, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, so to speak, then we don't have to go through with it.
Appreciate that. So there is a motion made and seconded under discussion. Again, my thought is, and I appreciate the importance and need to have refresher courses and stuff, and I also understand we have a brand-new councilwoman member and another council person who's been here just 2 years. But for me, I've been doing budgets all my life, it feels like. So, maybe there's things that we can find that would be specifically helpful to folks that might be less important for someone, I apologize, who's been through this for years and years, and Councilman Lennon, who's been through many, many budgets as well, right?
Yes,
I'll
they're pleasant.
I'll turn that off. So, any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Okay. I forgot where I was. Council Member Lennon?
Yeah.
Piana?
Yes.
I vote.
Baker? Galloway?
Yes.
Or Mayor Covey?
Yes, as well. I apologize. Madam Clerk, I'm getting a little punchy, and
That's quite all
my
right.
broken rib is hurting.
I'm
My
sure.
phones are ringing. It's hot in here.
So hot in here.
Let me focus here for a moment. We are now to...
The council appointee report from the Chief of Police.
Captain, are we going to table the Chief of Police's report, sir? Is there anything you'd like to...
synopsis of
Sure,
Chief, as you
Captain.
know, is on vacation. He just wanted council to know that there has been despite the dramatic crimes that we've had in the press of last year, there was a dramatic downturn in crime of about 10%. Some of the notable reductions is a 22% reduction in robberies. Larcenies are down 14%. Weapons offenses are down 24%. Home invasions are down 7%. We're happy to note sexual offenses down 29%. Disorderly conduct is down 23%. Juvenile offenses are down 28%. Of course, homicides are up 100%, but that crime was solved. Assaultive crimes were only down 0.8%. Overall, this reflects great work by the police department. In no way does that state that we have too many officers. I think that's reflective of showing that the officers that we do have are doing an excellent job. Other than that, I'm sure Chief Kitchen can give you the rendition at the next council meeting.
Captain, we appreciate you being here. I had one question for you, sir, that I can't wait till the chief comes back, and maybe others might, but we did finally get some information. I'm always interested and concerned when pedestrians are run over on Woodward Avenue, and we did have a vehicle-pedestrian collision. I think it's been about 2 weeks, and we did get an email from the chief. Would you mind getting the council members like a formal report or whatever it is that you generate that could give us the information on that, including how that person is? 'Cause I don't.
That person still is alive and in the hospital. My last understanding, in critical condition. That was a pedestrian vehicle accident. It was not the vehicle's fault. Pedestrian was crossing the street in a non-crosswalk area.
True.
I would have to review the report to tell you what the signal situation was, if indeed there was a signal where that individual was crossing.
My understanding, Captain, and again, if we could get the official report, it was Hambo. It's where there've been multiple runovers. Hambo's on one side, I think Boogie Fever on the other side. Or, yeah.
Fester and Withington Woodward.
Yes, sir. And the reason I ask is any time a pedestrian is hit is unfortunate, and we know Woodward's a very fast and busy street, but there's been at least 2 there in the last 2 years, and I'm interested in, again, lobbying the MDOT to try to reinstall that crosswalk, and I'm assuming council members would like to get that information as well, or is anyone not interested in seeing that? So if you wouldn't mind, sir.
A copy of the traffic accident report.
Whatever it is that you think would be most helpful for us to know what happened, and could then use that information to further study what
Certainly.
we might be able to do. I appreciate that. Anything else for the captain from the table? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Clerk,
Council liaison reports, if any, Your Honor.
very good. Are there any? Usually that list is there, and I look
Yeah.
at it, and I don't have it in front of me.
I just realized the list was gone. Well, we took care of Transportation Riders United, and again, I thank the city attorney and the city manager for taking a look into what we needed to do to make sure we did not accidentally opt out of our local transit system.
Very good. Suburbs Alliance, anything
Nope.
exciting? There is a mayor's dinner coming up in February. I'm going to try to attend. 8 Mile Boulevard Association, anything exciting? All right, Madam Clerk, next item.
Call to council, Your Honor.
Call to council. Captain, you were just up. Anything else from the police department, sir? Thank you. Byron Fotides, anything from the Department of Public Works?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. I see our men out there with the salt, and we're saving money on salt, evidently. So.
Yeah, so far, I would, but
Yes.
I'm not superstitious, so don't say anything.
All right, sir. Fire Chief Roger Schmidt. Looking very good in your dress uniform tonight, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I apologize to you. I threw you a bit of a curve at the beginning of the meeting when I wasn't in the back. It was a little crowded back there.
I need to be more nimble.
Second, through a miscommunication, one of the officers at the Goodfellows had wanted to present Monica and Larry Mills with a little certificate of appreciation for their fundraiser, the Prohibition Party. And he approached me this morning, and I said, well, get me the certificate and we can do it tonight. He prepared the certificate and called Larry and Monica and asked them to be here, but he never told me he had it ready. And so I had already surrendered the podium, and so I want to apologize to them. They were here expecting that. I would like to do it at the next council meeting.
I think that would be great, Chief. They would love it. They live close. They come to the meetings anyway. They love being a part of this. They love the Goodfellows. They love you guys. And you could probably make it up by coming to one of Monica's blues concerts and helping us raise some money.
We can do that.
We've got 10 nights to pick from. So.
And just as a footnote to that fire, the Valor Awards, that was an arson fire, and it took him 6 years to convict arsonist, but he was convicted to life in prison.
Very good.
Thank you.
Appreciated those awards tonight, Chief. Again, Mayor Porter, thank you for being here. Ms. Tallman, anything? What? I'm sorry. Oh, yes, yes. Julie Hall, Recreation Department Director. You need to wave at me or something next time. I need to wear my glasses.
Well, on a little
I look
bit
for
lighter,
uniforms. And
a little bit lighter note, our Sweetheart Date Night is coming up on February 12th from 6 to 8. And we do have a very generous partnership this year with Chris Johnston and the Emory, so I do want to let everyone know that any dads or caregivers that are bringing their daughters or young girls to our Sweetheart Date Night, if they present on that evening a paid receipt to the dance, their daughters will eat free at the Emory. So that essentially, for the cost of their $9 ticket, they'll get free dinner for their daughters. So we want to thank the Emory and Chris Johnston for that generous offer and welcome everyone to come out to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie Hall. Always a pleasure to see you. Now, Ms. Dahlman.
Yes, I have three quick things. The deadline to file to run for either the Ferndale or Hazel Park school boards is February 9th by 4 p.m. You need to file at Oakland County. Regarding the anonymous flyer that was distributed, I had sent an email out earlier in the day in which I misspoke a bit. Religious, social, and political activity is actually exempted from requiring a handbill permit. Even though we can't require social, religious, political groups to register, we often request them to give us some names and times they'll be out in order to be able to provide information for our residents. When people are out there handing out anonymous flyers, it's impossible for us to give our residents any level of confidence and comfort that that people are on the up and up. And the last thing, we've had some confusion. People can't find our agendas and minutes and videos because we've changed our website slightly. So I just want to announce again that on our homepage you can access our agendas, our minutes, and our videos under the featured content towards the bottom of the homepage. Click on the link that says City Council Meeting Videos, Agendas, and Minutes. You can get the agendas and all the backup material ahead of time. You can watch the video either during the meeting or anytime after the meeting, and you can get the minutes sometime the day following. Any minutes and agendas prior to December of 2009 are on the old section of the website. From now on, they'll be on this new link. And that is it for me. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very good. Thank you. Melanie, Councilwoman Piana, anything to share tonight?
Not at this time.
Very good. Mr. Bruner, anything you wanted to share?
Yes, Your Honor, briefly regarding the anonymous flyer that had urged folks to call the city manager's office. Unfortunately, I spent a great part of the day talking to many residents who had received this flyer and were concerned, and talking to the media and trying to straighten some of the rumors, lies, call them what you will, about the information that was circulating around town. I was very surprised to read on the internet today that I earn $150,000 a year, and that I live in a house that's provided by the city. So just to set the record straight on those, last year's top 3 wage earners for the city of Ferndale were Police Chief Michael P. Kitchen, who made about $120,000. I made about $110,000, and Captain Collins made about $106,000. Now, while that is a great deal more than the average Ferndale resident earns, I think that's a little bit more than some folks in Oakland County in our positions earn, and a little bit less than some others in similar positions in Oakland County earn. Regardless of that, in recognition of the fact that the city is going through difficult financial positions, I will participate in some kind of reductions, whatever they may be, as we go through the budgeting process. As for my house, I bought my house in 2002 when I was the assistant to the city manager in Oak Park. Like a lot of folks in Ferndale, I owe about twice as much as what it's worth. So I wish the city owned it so that I could get out of that burden and debt, but that's not the case. So I can't write all the misinformation that I heard today, but those were the 2, I think, most ridiculous ones that I thought we should address tonight. So I will be working in the days and weeks ahead to try to provide the public with more information about the city's budget and the city's budgeting process. I do so on the pages of Ferndale Friends, so folks that are interested can read about it there and in other news stories that we do. But apparently I need to do a better job of informing the public about the city's financial situation, so we'll be working harder on that.
Very good. Welcome to the age of the internet. So there's always been that kind of rumor, only now it gets to 1 million people instead of one by one by one. Mr. Christ, anything, sir?
Very briefly, just to clarify the clerk's comments regarding handbills, the city's ordinance does preclude handbills from being placed on a vacant car, whether it is a commercial or non-commercial message. So that is prohibited under the city's code of ordinances.
You're right, technically. I wonder if you called the police, if they'd come and arrest that person for that. They might. Councilwoman Baker.
I guess just to say that I'm disheartened and I was disappointed at the 2 television reporters that were in the room this evening who neither bothered to talk to any of the council members nor record. Perhaps one maybe recorded what Councilmember Lennon said, but the other actually packed up and walked out before there was any clarification or any conversation. It was the furthest thing from unbiased journalism, and I was just extremely disappointed that that is the type of thing that, you know, evening in and evening out we see on the evening news. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but I really wish that, you know, these people that come and set up in our council chambers and, you know, play 15 seconds of something that's extremely important to our community on the television. I just really wish that they would take the time and report the entire story. And I'll leave it there.
Good point. Anything else, Kate?
Am I supposed to have anything else? Oh, well, the Planning Commission, we had actually a really great public hearing and some excellent conversations with residents about the updated zoning ordinance. And if I remember correctly, there will be another public hearing here at the City Council, the first meeting in February.
That might actually be changed to the second meeting in February, but it will be in February.
Maybe the second meeting in February.
Yes, there will be
either way, it will be part of the agenda. That updated zoning ordinance is posted online, along with several other resources, including a map that shows specifically which areas have changed, what's been updated, and a table of uses that is quite exhaustive in explaining exactly what is permitted in each zone, which I think makes it much easier for residents to understand how they fit into the picture and how their neighborhood fits into the picture of zoning in our community. We tried to make it a usable document. Zoning ordinances are very cumbersome pieces of quasi-legislation. So it's, I think we as a planning commission did a great job of consolidating and reorganizing. So look forward to presenting it to you guys soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Lennon, what do you got?
I don't really. I just want to thank all the residents for coming out in support of the police and fire today. I, are extremely supportive of police and fire, as you can imagine, spending 25 years with them. But it helps out other people in their decision-making process. We all know that our police and fire are the most important things in the city, so that's all I got right now.
Very good. Councilman Galloway.
Yes, I also would like to thank folks for coming out this evening and sharing their opinions with us. We wouldn't be in nearly the situation we are right now if the state lived up to their obligations that they've made to cities through state shared revenue. As folks may know, the city gets revenue from 2 big areas, and of course we have fees and some other smaller ones, but it's property taxes and money redistributed from the state. We can't do too much about property values. Those are in decline due to forces, international, global forces, I think, working upon manufacturing in the local area. But one thing you would think we as a state of Michigan could do is pay for basic city services like police and fire. The state of Michigan in Lansing, the legislature has consistently appropriated less and less for state shared revenue, which, had they fully funded it, we probably would have more police officers and more firefighters on the street right now. We're down several $1 million a year from where we were supposed to be statutorily and constitutionally. And I've spoken with Speaker of the House, Andy Dillon, and also our State Representative Ellen Kogan-Lipton. And basically what it comes down to is the Republican Senate in Lansing refuses to address the situation by coming up with solutions. Rather, they apparently it's their political agenda to keep government small at all levels, and that includes keeping smaller fire departments, smaller police departments, smaller whatever, DNR, DEQ, whatever it might be. So I hope that some of the folks who attended tonight's meeting and are listening will contact state senators and encourage them to do what's right and fully fund municipal state shared, or municipal funding from state shared revenue in both the constitutional and the statutory going forward. If we did that, then we really wouldn't have this budget shortfall that we have tonight to think about.
Very good point, Councilman. Lansing's always seemed to be a problem as of late.
Very, very, very true. And I guess my final point is, again, people, we know you're watching the news. Nobody is surprised by these cuts. These have been coming. We've been in a recession in this state for 6 years. This council has done a very good job of squeezing every penny out of every value, every tax dollar. And we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to have a strong police force and a strong fire department. But we can only work with the hand that we're dealt. It could be that a millage comes up, but it's going to still be a year or two, and we're still going to have to make some trimming of the budget. So, you want to get upset that the Wall Street bankers are getting million-dollar bonuses, and yet our home values have declined for the last 3 years, and our 401ks are way, way down as well. So I appreciate the grassroots political organizing that goes on. The unsigned flyers, and this is a tried and true Ferndale tradition that's been going on for longer than I've been here. And if you like what it says, then you're okay with it. If you don't like what it says, then you think it's pretty bad. But again, it's just so grassroots. It's so typical. Ideally, people share their thoughts, but the internet certainly adds a whole new level of outreach these days. And I went on Facebook and was just astounded at all that was going on. But again, it's part of democracy, and it's that messy sausage making that goes on. On a final note, and hopefully a lighter note, but a blue note, the Blues Festival is coming up. What? Oh, I didn't get to Melanie? Did I skip you?
No, you're good.
No, I did her. You guys keep messing with me each time. Let me pass those down if you want to take one. The Ferndale Blues Festival finally starts this Friday, January the 29th. It goes on for 9 days, plus brunch at Emory the next day. We still need volunteers. It's a huge event. We have 23 venues, 66 concerts over 10 days. I've asked each of the council members to pick a concert or two to help staff. It's really a lot of fun, and you get to hang with the residents and the business owners. But we do have a shuttle that goes on regardless of the weather. These concerts will go on. It's a great time to get out, get some camaraderie with, and rub shoulders with your community members, and finally blow off some steam in the middle of winter. And that's all I can think of. I'm exhausted. With that, no more business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.